The planet Aquamarina was, as the name suggested, mostly water. Towering kelp forests swayed in the currents. Bioluminescent plankton painted the abyssal depths, and the dominant species, the Aquari, were obsessed with order. Their cities, constructed from polished coral and reinforced with woven seaweed, followed strict geometric patterns dictated by ancient hydro-engineers. Every Aquari, from the lowest sanitation drone to the high commander, adhered to the sacred flowchart, a document detailing every possible action and its corresponding protocol. Life was predictable. Life was efficient. Life was, according to the Aquari, perfect. Then came the human. He arrived, unannounced, in a vessel that looked suspiciously like a repurposed bathtub welded to a weather balloon. The Aquari defense grid, a network of trained electric eels, was too busy laughing to react in time. The ship splashed down near the Grand Coral Palace, home of High Commander Krill, ruler of Aquamarina and devout follower of the sacred flowchart. Krill, a being of considerable girth and even greater seriousness, watched the approach of the strange craft with growing alarm. Protocols for dealing with unscheduled oceanic landings were naturally in the sacred flowchart, but this thing defied classification. It wasn't a rogue asteroid, Protocol 37b Alpha, nor a migrating space whale, Protocol 82c Gamma. It was quite simply ridiculous. From the vessel emerged a figure unlike anything the Aquari had ever seen. He was tall, alarmingly pink, and clad in what appeared to be brightly colored woven plant fibers. He wore a strange device over his eyes, and his hair was buoyant. He grinned, a flash of unsettlingly square teeth. "Greetings, Aquamarinians," the human boomed, his voice echoing strangely in the water. "Name's Dave, just passing through, thought I'd drop in for a swim." The electric eels, recovering from their initial amusement, finally delivered a mild shock. Dave didn't even flinch. "Pleasure to meet you too, Sparky," he said, winking. "So, anyone got a towel?" Commander Krill, his normally placid face contorted, in confusion consulted the sacred flowchart. There was no protocol for buoyant pink beings requesting towels. This was, to put it mildly, a bureaucratic nightmare. Dave, oblivious to the existential crisis he was causing, pulled a strange rectangular device from his pocket. "Mind if I take a selfie?" he asked, aiming the device at a group of gaping Aquari guards. "My mom won't believe this." The Aquari, a species renowned for their rigid adherence to the sacred flowchart, had no idea what to make of this. Dave. He was an anomaly, a glitch in their perfectly ordered world, and he had just asked to take a selfie. The universe, it seemed, was about to get a whole lot weirder. The High Commander gulped. This was going to require a very strong kelp smoothie. The initial interactions were, to put it mildly, awkward. The Aquari, accustomed to communicating through precisely calibrated bioluminescent flashes, found Dave's booming voice and erratic gestures deeply unsettling. Dave, in turn, seemed utterly baffled by their formal pronouncements and rigid social hierarchy. "So, this sacred flowchart thing," Dave asked Krill during what was supposed to be a formal welcoming ceremony. "Is it like your version of Google? Can I get Wi-Fi down here?" Krill's bioluminescent spots flickered erratically. He consulted his second-in-command, a particularly grumpy eel named Sparky. Sparky, after a moment of frantic searching in the flowchart database, reported that Wi-Fi was not an approved concept. Another cultural chasm opened when Dave attempted to participate in the Aquari's daily synchronized swimming routine, a complex display of aquatic precision meant to honor the ancient hydro-engineers. Dave, bless his heart, tried his best. He flailed. He splashed. He accidentally punted a baby squid several meters. The Aquari, horrified, immediately halted the routine. Accusations of hydro-blasphemy were murmured. Suspicion began to simmer among the Aquari leadership. Dave's behavior was simply too random. Surely no being could be this clueless by accident. Perhaps he was a spy from the Krill Empire, Aquamarina's long-standing rival, sent to disrupt their society with his bizarre antics. Or worse, maybe he was some kind of performance artist. The thought sent shivers down Krill's spine. He keeps asking about Tide Pods, grumbled General Pincer, a crab known for his strategic brilliance and deep-seated paranoia. I checked the flowchart. Tide Pods are not an approved form of sustenance. I suspect they are some sort of aquatic explosive device. Krill, considering the matter, had to agree that it seemed plausible. Dave's constant questions about their technology didn't help matters. He seemed particularly fascinated by the Aquari's primary weapon, the sonic disruptor, a device that emitted focused sound waves capable of shattering coral and stunning enemy combatants. So, this thing, Dave said, holding the disruptor and turning it over in his hands. It's basically a really loud speaker, right? Can I hook my playlist up to it? The Aquari guards surrounding him exchanged nervous glances. Hooking a playlist to a weapon of mass destruction? The very idea was preposterous. And yet, Dave seemed utterly sincere. Krill decided enough was enough. He summoned Dave to his private coral chamber, a place usually reserved for top-secret, strategic planning sessions and existential seaweed-related crises. Human Dave, he began, his voice resonating with barely controlled disapproval. Your unusual behavior has caused considerable disruption to our society. We must ask you, what is your purpose here on Aqua Marina? Dave's fascination with the sonic disruptor only intensified the Aquari's unease. He spent hours tinkering with it, much to the horror of the engineering team. One afternoon he managed to rewire the device, claiming he was optimizing the base. Instead of a focused beam of destructive sound, the disruptor now emitted a pulsing wave of polka music. The effect on the Aquari was immediate and catastrophic. The rigidly structured society descended into spontaneous, uncoordinated dancing. Krill watched in horror as his most disciplined soldiers began wiggling their fins and clapping to the beat. General Pincer, usually a picture of military stoicism, found himself inexplicably compelled to do the Hokey Pokey. I can't. Stop, he cried, flailing his claws in a most undignified manner. The Aquari's carefully maintained order dissolved into a sea of bewildered polka-dancing cephalopods. Dave, oblivious to the chaos he had unleashed, was beaming. See? He said, adjusting the disruptor's settings. Now it's a party cannon, way better than shattering coral, right? Krill could only stare in disbelief. The weapon they had designed to defend their civilization was now a source of uncontrollable, polka-induced joy. Another incident involved the Aquari's intricate system of underwater tunnels. These tunnels were carefully maintained and regulated, with strict protocols governing who could travel where and when. Dave, however, seemed to view them as some kind of aquatic roller coaster. He commandeered a maintenance vehicle, cranked up the speed, and began zipping through the tunnels, yelling like a maniac. The Aquari traffic control system went haywire. Alarms blared, fish scattered. High-ranking officials were nearly thrown from their seahorse-drawn carriages. "He's breached Sector Gamma 9, shrieked an operator, her tentacles flailing. "He's calling it Aqua Marina Speedway." The most perplexing incident, however, involved the sacred algae farm. This farm was the source of the Aquari's primary food supply, and its cultivation was a highly ritualized process. One morning, the Aquari farmers arrived to find Dave standing in the middle of the farm, wearing a pair of oversized sunglasses and holding a watering can. He had apparently decided that the algae needed a little extra love. He had spent the entire night watering the algae with a concoction he called seaweed smoothies, made from a blend of exotic fruits and, inexplicably, mayonnaise. The algae, predictably, did not react well. It turned a rather alarming shade of purple and began emitting a strange gurgling sound. The Aquari scientists were baffled. They ran countless tests, consulted ancient texts, and even sacrificed a particularly grumpy sea cucumber to the hydro gods, but nothing could explain the purple algae. The Aquari were forced to quarantine the entire farm, and their food supply dwindled dangerously low. Krill, his patience stretched to its breaking point, summoned Dave once again. "Human Dave," he said, his voice trembling with suppressed rage. "You have disrupted our society, endangered our food supply, and subjected us to polka music. Explain yourself." Dave, looking utterly unfazed, simply shrugged. "Hey," he said, "I was just trying to help." Krill, his bioluminescent eyes narrowed, pressed Dave for answers. "Help? By turning our defense weapon into a polka machine? By poisoning our sacred algae with mayonnaise?" Dave scratched his head, a picture of innocent confusion. "Well, the Disruptor seemed a bit aggressive, you know. Thought a little polka might lighten the mood. And the algae looked thirsty. Everyone likes a smoothie, right?" The Aquari Council exchanged horrified glances. This human's logic was utterly alien. Grand Admiral Tentaculus, a veteran of countless underwater skirmishes, slammed his fist on the table. "Enough! This help of yours is nothing but chaos. We demand to know your true purpose." Dave sighed, as if dealing with particularly dim children. All right, chill your gills. You really want to know what I'm doing here?" He paused for dramatic effect, then grinned. "I'm here to show you guys how to relax." The Aquari stared, blankly. Relax? The concept was foreign to their structured, militaristic minds. "Relaxing is inefficient," Krill stated, his brow furrowed. "It wastes valuable time and resources." Dave chuckled. "See, that's where you're wrong. Relaxing is the ultimate efficiency hack. You're so tense you can't even see what's right in front of you." He gestured towards the sonic disruptor, still humming softly and occasionally burping out a stray polka note. "Take that thing, for example. It's a weapon of immense power," Tentaculus boomed, "capable of shattering entire coral reefs." Dave rolled his eyes. "Or, it's a really elaborate musical instrument." He walked over to the device and began fiddling with the controls. The polka music stopped, replaced by a series of bizarre, almost comical sounds. The Aquari watched, bewildered, as Dave coaxed a series of squawks, whistles, and burps from the disruptor. What is that noise?" Krill asked, his tentacles twitching nervously. "It's whale song," Dave replied, still tweaking the controls. "Sort of. Mixed with a little dolphin chatter and, a dash of seagull." Suddenly, a low, rumbling sound filled the chamber. The Aquari began to panic. "An earthquake!" someone shrieked. "The hydro gods are displeased." Dave held up a hand, silencing the commotion. "Nah, that's just the disruptor." He adjusted the settings one last time, and the rumbling intensified. The walls of the chamber began to vibrate. The water around them shimmered. And then, to the utter astonishment of the Aquari, the rumbling resolved itself into a deep, soothing hum. What is happening?" Krill stammered, his eyes wide with disbelief. Dave grinned. "It's the brown note," he explained. "Humans use it for relaxation, meditation. Clears the mind, eases the stress. I tweaked the disruptor to hit just the right frequency." The Aquari Council was speechless. This weapon of mass destruction was a giant relaxation machine? The implications were staggering. Tentaculus, his face a mask of confusion, cautiously approached the disruptor. He placed a tentacle on the device and closed his eyes. A moment later, his rigid posture softened. A faint smile appeared on his face. I feel calm," he whispered. Krill, equally bewildered, followed suit. He touched the disruptor, took a deep breath, and let out a sigh of relief. "Incredible," he murmured. "All this time, we had the solution to our stress. Right in front of us." Dave chuckled. "Told you, sometimes the best weapon is a little chill." The council members, one by one, succumbed to the disruptor's calming vibrations. Their normally stern faces relaxed. Their tense tentacles went limp. Even the notoriously grumpy Grand Admiral Tentaculus was sporting a serene smile, his bioluminescent spots glowing a soft, peaceful blue. Dave watched the scene unfold, a smug grin on his face. "See? Told you it would work. Now who's up for some algae smoothies and a polka dance-off? The Aquari, still basking in the afterglow of the brown note, looked at each other with newfound curiosity. Krill, the first to regain his composure, turned to Dave. "Human," he said, his voice remarkably gentle. "We may have underestimated you. Your unconventional method have shown us a new perspective." Dave shrugged. "Just call me a problem solver, or a party starter. Either works." Tentaculus, his face still softened by the Disruptor's effects, added, Perhaps a little relaxation is not such a waste of resources after all." He paused, then added, And perhaps mayonnaise is not such a terrible addition to algae." A ripple of agreement spread through the council. The climax of Dave's intervention was not a battle but a breakthrough. He hadn't conquered the Aquari with weapons, but with relaxation, transforming their destructive device into an instrument of peace and a source of collective calm. The resolution came swiftly. The sonic disruptor was officially repurposed, rechristened the harmonic harmonizer, and installed in the Aquari's central plaza. Daily meditation sessions, complete with polka music and algae smoothies, became mandatory for all citizens. Productivity initially plummeted, but surprisingly, creativity soared. The Aquari, freed from the shackles of constant stress, began to develop new technologies, new art forms, and most importantly, a sense of humor. Even their military strategy evolved. Instead of aggressive assaults, they now deployed calming sound waves to disorient their enemies. Their battle cry became a cheerful polka tune which, while confusing, proved surprisingly effective. Dave, hailed as a hero, or at least a very strange but ultimately helpful weirdo, was offered a permanent residence on Aquaria Prime. He politely declined. "Nah, I gotta see what kind of trouble I can stir up on other planets," he said with a wink. As Dave prepared to depart, Krill approached him, a small, carefully wrapped package in his tentacles. "A gift, human," he said. "A token of our gratitude." Dave unwrapped the package to reveal a jar of shimmering green goo. "Algae smoothie concentrate?" he asked, his eyebrows raised. Krill nodded, with a hint of mayonnaise. "We thought you might appreciate it." Dave grinned. "You guys are all right. Don't forget to chill out, okay?" He gave Krill a thumbs up and stepped onto his ship, leaving behind a planet transformed by the most unlikely of influences, a blind human with a knack for turning weapons into relaxation machines, and a whole lot of mayonnaise. The punchline? Sometimes the greatest strength lies not in might, but in the ability to see the world, or in Dave's case, not see it, differently. Years passed. Aquaria Prime became known throughout the galaxy as the zenith of zest, a planet of perpetual relaxation and surprisingly catchy polka music. Their former enemies, initially bewildered by the Aquari's newfound chill, eventually warmed up to the idea of settling disputes with algae smoothies instead of torpedoes. The harmonic harmonizer, once a weapon of mass destruction, became a galactic sensation. Planets suffering from war, famine, or just general grumpiness sent delegations to Aquaria Prime to learn the secrets of sonic serenity. Soon, polka-infused meditation sessions were sweeping the galaxy. Dave, meanwhile, continued his journey, leaving behind a trail of bewildered but ultimately happier aliens. He became a legend, a myth, a blind wanderer who somehow managed to disarm entire civilizations with his quirky charm and strange inventions. Some called him a prophet, others a madman, but all agreed on one thing. He was unlike anything the deadliest galaxy had ever seen. One day, a young Aquari scholar, fascinated by the tales of the legendary human, stumbled upon an old file containing the original schematics of the sonic disruptor. He examined the diagrams, cross-referencing them with human technology. A chilling realization dawned upon him. The sonic disruptor, the fearsome weapon that Dave had transformed into a relaxation device, was not a sophisticated piece of alien technology at all. It was, in fact, a slightly modified version of a human white noise machine designed to help babies fall asleep. The ultimate weapon of mass destruction, the key to Aquari dominance, was just a glorified baby soother. The scholar, initially horrified, couldn't help but chuckle. The irony was too delicious. A species renowned for its logic and military prowess had been outsmarted by a blind human with a baby toy. The galaxy, it seemed, had a very strange sense of humor. And somewhere out there, Dave was probably stirring up more trouble, blissfully unaware of the chaos and calm he had left in his wake.